Alec Newell was taken by extraterrestrials and spent over a week with them before returning. What exactly did Alec encounter during this time? Were his memories genuine? And what prompted intelligence agencies to show an unusual level of interest in his case? In this video, we'll delve into Alec's experience, examine the so-called evidence he brought back, and explore the fascinating truths he uncovered. February 1989 started like any ordinary month for Alec Newell. He was a successful businessman living comfortably in Rotorua, New Zealand, with his wife and family. The drive to Auckland was routine, something he had done countless times before. The weather was clear, traffic was light, and nothing seemed unusual about that particular Tuesday morning when he kissed his wife goodbye and promised to be back by evening. The route from Rotorua to Auckland is straightforward, following well-traveled highways through familiar New Zealand countryside. It's a journey that typically takes about 3 hours, depending on traffic conditions. Alec had made this trip so many times that he could practically drive it with his eyes closed. He knew every turn, every landmark, every rest stop along the way. But something extraordinary happened on that seemingly ordinary drive. According to Alec's account, he remembers getting into his car, starting the engine, and beginning the journey north. He recalls the familiar sights of Rotorua disappearing in his rearview mirror as he merged onto the main highway. Then, in what felt like the blink of an eye, he found himself surrounded by people demanding to know where he had been. The confusion was immediate and overwhelming. Alec looked around to see his wife in tears, relatives gathered with worried expressions, and even police officers asking questions he couldn't understand. They were telling him he had been missing for 10 days, but to Alec, the drive had felt continuous and uninterrupted. The disconnect between his perception of time and everyone else's reality was so jarring that he initially thought they were playing some kind of elaborate joke on him. The physical evidence of his absence was undeniable. His family had reported him missing after he failed to arrive in Auckland for his scheduled business meeting. Search parties had scoured the highways between Rotorua and Auckland, looking for any sign of his car or evidence of an accident. The police had launched a full investigation, treating it as a serious missing person case. Local media had even picked up the story, broadcasting appeals for information about his whereabouts. When Alec finally reappeared, he was found in Auckland, exactly where he had been heading 10 days earlier. But he had no explanation for the missing time, no memory of where he had been, and no understanding of why everyone was so concerned about his absence. To him, the journey had been instantaneous, as if he had somehow skipped over 10 days of linear time without experiencing them. The physical toll on his body told a different story. Alec was suffering from severe headaches that wouldn't respond to any medication. His energy levels were completely depleted, leaving him struggling to perform even basic daily tasks. Most disturbing of all, he found it nearly impossible to concentrate or focus his thoughts. It was as if his mind had been stretched beyond its normal capacity and was now struggling to compress back into its original state. In the weeks after his return, Alec attempted to resume his normal life, returning to work and his routines, hoping the strange experiences would fade. Instead, they only intensified. What began as vague impressions and fleeting images gradually developed into clearer memories, memories that seemed to belong to someone else's life. The first clear memory to emerge was perhaps the most terrifying. Alec described the sensation of his body dissolving, as if every atom had been carefully separated and reconstructed elsewhere. One moment he was driving down a familiar New Zealand highway, and the next his physical body ceased to exist in any conventional sense, leaving only his consciousness in an endless void. This wasn't the usual experience of falling asleep or losing consciousness. Alec remained fully aware throughout, able to observe and experience everything. His physical form became less solid, less real, until it vanished entirely. Yet, his sense of self and his ability to think and perceive remained intact. The void Alec found himself in defied every law of physics he knew. There were no walls, no floor, no ceiling, no reference points, just an infinite expanse of soft, pervasive light. The silence felt more like a pause in a cosmic symphony than anything frightening. As Alec floated in this impossible space, he noticed movement in the distance. Initially, they appeared as shadows or distortions, but as they approached, their forms became clearer. Alec realized he was no longer alone in this strange dimension. The beings that emerged were unlike anything he had seen. They were about human height, but with elongated limbs and larger heads. Their eyes were the most striking feature, deep and knowing, radiating intelligence far beyond what Alec could comprehend. What happened next defied all of Alec's expectations about communication. The beings never spoke aloud. Instead, their thoughts appeared directly in his mind with perfect clarity. Concepts and ideas materialized in his consciousness, as if they had always been there, fully formed. They explained that Alec was now wearing a biointegration suit, although he could see or feel no difference in his body. This living garment, they said, would allow him to survive in their environment and interact with their advanced technology. It could even anticipate his needs before he was aware of them, providing nutrients and adjusting the atmosphere to his human physiology. The implications were staggering. These beings possessed technology so advanced that it could manipulate matter at a molecular level, create artificial environments, and enable communication across species boundaries. They spoke of these abilities as casually as humans might discuss the weather. This was just the beginning of a series of revelations that would challenge Alec's understanding of reality, consciousness, and humanity's place in the universe. The beings made it clear that Alec had been chosen for a specific purpose, to receive knowledge he would eventually need to share with humanity. And before we continue unfolding this fascinating discovery, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss any future episodes. Don't forget to share it with your friends, too. It helps the channel out, and I'm excited to continue bringing you more awesome content. As Alec's consciousness adapted to this new reality, his surroundings shifted from the endless void into something more structured. In the distance, he began to notice shapes and patterns unlike any human architecture. What appeared before him was a sprawling metropolis that defied every convention of urban design. The city stretched endlessly along what seemed to be a coastline, disappearing into the horizon. Even from his elevated position, Alec could see that it covered an area so vast that the largest human cities would look like small villages. But it wasn't just the scale that was alien. The entire design of the city was radically different from anything humanity had ever built. The buildings rose in organic, flowing shapes, as if they had been grown rather than constructed. Many were low, circular structures with smooth surfaces that glowed with an inner light, almost as if the walls themselves were alive. Scattered among them were pyramid-like structures. But these were made from translucent crystal or advanced composites that shifted colors depending on the angle of view. Atop the pyramid structures were spiral towers that twisted skyward like enormous helices, each topped with massive orbs that pulsed with energy, suggesting they served a functional purpose, such as power generation or communication. These weren't merely decorative features, they were integral to the city's infrastructure. What stood out most to Alec was the absence of the chaos and clutter typical of human cities. There were no power lines, visible transportation systems, or signs of industrial pollution. The streets curved naturally through the landscape, following the terrain instead of adhering to rigid grids. Everything seemed perfectly integrated, as if the city were a single, harmonious organism. The materials used in construction were unlike anything on Earth, semi-transparent, resilient, and possibly organic. They seemed to respond to environmental conditions, adjusting their opacity and luminosity depending on the time of day or the needs of the inhabitants. Alec felt as if the buildings weren't just structures but living systems, actively participating in the lives of the people. The beings guiding Alec moved with calm confidence, showing no surprise at the extraordinary surroundings. For them, this was home, an evolved product of thousands of years of technological and social progress. They led him through winding pathways that seemed to adapt to their movements, past structures that hummed with barely audible energy until they reached his temporary residence. The dwelling they provided was a perfect example of their architectural philosophy. The rooms were defined by curves with light emanating from the walls themselves. The space responded to his presence, adjusting to his needs and preferences. Furniture appeared from the floor when needed and receded when no longer required. However, Alec soon realized that his presence here wasn't simply for sightseeing or cultural exchange. The beings had a specific purpose for him. They intended to share knowledge about Earth's hidden history and humanity's true origins, information that had been carefully concealed from their species for millennia. What they revealed would challenge everything Alec thought he knew about human civilization and our place in the universe. The process of returning Alec's consciousness to his physical body on Earth created complications even his alien hosts couldn't fully control. The transfer between dimensions involved compressing vast multidimensional experiences back into the limited framework of human perception. What had felt like an extended stay in their realm had actually lasted 10 days on Earth, creating the temporal discrepancy that alarmed both his family and authorities. Upon his return, Alec experienced severe headaches and exhaustion, direct consequences of this consciousness compression. His neural pathways had been temporarily expanded to accommodate experiences far beyond normal human capacity. Reintegrating this expanded awareness back into his brain was mentally and physically taxing, like trying to fit an ocean into a teacup. Initially, Alec shared his experiences with no one, finding them too extraordinary to believe, even by himself. He tried to return to his life as a businessman, hoping that the strange visions would fade. But instead they grew stronger, more detailed with each passing day. As he researched the technical aspects of his experience, Alec made a disturbing discovery. Much of what he remembered aligned with cutting-edge scientific theories and unpublished research. He recalled complex concepts about physics, biology, and consciousness that were far beyond his knowledge. When he looked into them, they matched ongoing research in secret laboratories around the world. This discovery was both validating and terrifying. If his memories were hallucinations, how could they contain accurate details about scientific developments he had no way of knowing? The precision and consistency of his recollections suggested something truly extraordinary had occurred during those missing 10 days. Then came the Watchers. It started subtly, small changes in his routine that could be dismissed as a coincidence. With unfamiliar license plates began appearing regularly outside his house. Strangers started showing up at familiar coffee shops and restaurants, always within earshot of his conversations. His phone began acting strangely. Calls would disconnect at odd moments, often when he was discussing his experiences with friends or family. Mail that should have arrived never appeared, while other letters were opened or tampered with. His business communications were monitored, his movements tracked, and his associations cataloged by unknown parties with significant resources. The surveillance was professional and sophisticated, suggesting involvement from intelligence agencies or government organizations. Yet Alec hadn't spoken publicly about his experiences. He had only shared vague details with his family, avoiding mention of the more extraordinary aspects of his story. Still, someone was clearly paying attention. This pattern of surveillance and intimidation would continue for years, intensifying whenever Alec showed signs of wanting to share his story. The message was clear: powerful forces preferred his experiences remain private, buried under layers of ridicule and disbelief. After years of living under constant surveillance and pressure, Alec Newell made the bold decision to break his silence and share his extraordinary story with the world. He believed that secrecy was more dangerous than exposure, as keeping his experiences hidden could lead to them being dismissed or suppressed. Once his story was out in the public domain, it would be harder for anyone to silence him quietly. The book he wrote, Co-Evolution, An Interplanetary Adventure, was unlike any other UFO account. It wasn't a collection of vague impressions or fragmented memories, but a structured narrative that resembled a detailed travel journal. Alec described his experiences with the precision of an engineer, providing in-depth technical details and observations. What set Co-Evolution apart were the architectural drawings and technical specifications Alec included. These weren't simple sketches but detailed diagrams showing construction methods, energy systems, and functional components of the alien city he visited. He illustrated circular dwellings with cross-sections, showcasing how the structures integrated with the environment. The pyramid-like towers were depicted with mathematical precision, showing spiral antenna systems and energy distribution networks connected to glowing orbs. Alec even provided material specifications and theoretical explanations based on advanced physics principles. One of the most intriguing aspects of the book was the floor plans of the alien city's living spaces. These plans showed rooms that could reconfigure based on occupant needs, walls that functioned as both structural elements and information displays, and furniture that emerged from and receded into the floor. The level of detail suggested either an incredibly vivid imagination or genuine first-hand experience with technology far beyond human capabilities. Alec also included transcripts of his conversations with the beings he encountered, especially his primary guide, whom he called Xena. These dialogues covered topics such as consciousness, the hidden history of humanity, and the being's views on Earth's place in a larger cosmic community. Xena spoke about humanity's spiritual design, explaining that human DNA had been manipulated by a dark force to limit human potential and keep humanity trapped in cycles of conflict and ignorance. The beings also revealed that Earth was part of a larger cosmic community, but humanity had been isolated and misled about its origins. This wasn't presented as religious doctrine, but as factual information about the structure of reality and humanity's role in it. The beings expressed concern about humanity's destructive tendencies, fearing that these could eventually threaten other worlds. For UFO enthusiasts, coevolution was a breakthrough in abduction literature. Alec not only provided testimony but also technical documentation and philosophical insights that could be debated and analyzed. UFO researchers hailed him as one of the most credible abductees, with an account that transcended personal experience into cosmic revelation. The book spread quickly through underground networks and alternative research communities, being translated into multiple languages and distributed through channels specializing in suppressed knowledge. Conferences were organized around Alec's testimony, with researchers verifying technical details and philosophers debating his worldview. Skeptics dismissed Alec's story as fiction. They argued that his drawings and technical specifications could have been created through research into existing scientific theories. They also pointed out that the philosophical discussions with Xena reflected ideas from New Age and alternative spirituality movements. Critics noted the lack of physical evidence, no alien artifacts, no photographs, no materials to verify his descriptions, as proof that the story was a hoax or delusional fantasy. What stood out, however, was the lack of any official response to Alec's claims. No government agency stepped forward to debunk his story or disprove his technical details. The silence from official sources was deafening, and to Alec's supporters, it spoke volumes about the potential truth of his account. The book's impact reached far beyond the UFO community. It influenced artists, writers, and filmmakers who were inspired by Alec's descriptions of alien architecture and technology. His vision of a harmonious, advanced civilization became a model for how humanity might evolve if it overcame its current limitations and destructive tendencies. Decades after Alec Newald shared his extraordinary story, it remains one of the most polarizing cases in UFO literature. Over time, the fundamental questions surrounding his claims have not been resolved. In fact, new information and advancements in technology have made some of his descriptions seem less improbable than before. What makes Alec's case so compelling is the consistency and detail in his account. Unlike many abduction stories that rely on fragmented memories, Alec's narrative is comprehensive and filled with technical, architectural, even philosophical concepts far beyond his background and experience. His technical knowledge, which includes advanced energy systems, material science, and consciousness technology interfaces, seemed decades ahead of what was publicly known at the time. Experts in relevant fields found his descriptions internally consistent and plausible, though they couldn't be verified with existing technology. Alec's architectural drawings demonstrated an impressive understanding of advanced engineering and environmental integration. He described buildings that could adapt to their occupants' needs, materials that could change properties based on environmental conditions, and energy systems harmonizing with natural forces, concepts just emerging in human research. His philosophical discussions with the beings, particularly Xena, reflected an advanced worldview integrating science and spirituality in ways that humans had not yet achieved. Their insights into consciousness, reality, and humanity's place in the universe seemed too profound to be a fabrication. Supporters of Alec's account point to several factors supporting its authenticity. First, the consistency of his story over decades, with no significant contradictions. Second, the technical accuracy of information that wasn't publicly available when he first shared his experiences. Third, the personal cost of going public, including harassment and professional challenges. Alec's surveillance and intimidation followed patterns seen in other cases involving individuals with sensitive information about extraterrestrial contact. The nature of this monitoring suggested the involvement of intelligence agencies or powerful government organizations. Skeptics argue that Alec's technical knowledge could have been gleaned from existing scientific literature, even if it wasn't widely known. They suggest the consistency of his story is simply the result of a well-crafted narrative. Critics also claim that his philosophical ideas are heavily influenced by New Age and alternative spirituality movements, which were already established when he first shared his account. They argue that his experiences with harassment and surveillance could be attributed to paranoia or misinterpretation of ordinary events. What complicates the case further is the lack of independently verifiable physical evidence. Despite his detailed descriptions of alien technology, Alec has provided no tangible artifacts that could be scientifically analyzed. The validity of his account depends entirely on his testimony and the internal consistency of his narrative. Even skeptics admit that some aspects of Alec's case are difficult to explain conventionally. The precision of his technical descriptions, the sophistication of his philosophical framework, and the consistency of his story over decades suggest either an extraordinary imagination or genuine contact with advanced intelligence. While the question of whether Alec was truly abducted by aliens may never be definitively answered, his account has had a significant impact on how people think about extraterrestrial contact and humanity's place in the cosmos. His story continues to inspire researchers, artists, and philosophers, offering a vision of what human civilization might become if it could transcend its current limitations. Whether this vision came from alien beings or from Alec's imagination is secondary to the hope it represents. The story of Alec Newald forces us to confront fundamental questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and our place in the universe. Whether we choose to believe his account or dismiss it as elaborate fiction, we cannot ignore the profound implications of what he described. His vision of an advanced civilization that has achieved harmony between technology and nature, between individual consciousness and collective wisdom, that offers a template for human evolution that transcends our current limitations. If Alec's experiences were genuine, they suggest that humanity is not alone in the universe, and that there are civilizations far more advanced than our own who are watching our development with interest and concern. The knowledge he claimed to receive about human origins, DNA manipulation, and our species' true potential challenges fundamental assumptions about evolution, history, and the nature of consciousness itself. What do you think? Was Alec Newald truly abducted and entrusted with knowledge meant for all humanity? Or was this the product of an extraordinary imagination weaving together science, philosophy, and hope into a compelling narrative? His story has left millions questioning the nature of reality, the origins of human consciousness, and our ultimate destiny among the stars. If you found this exploration of one of the most detailed alien contact cases ever documented fascinating, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more investigations into the mysteries that challenge our understanding of reality. Share your thoughts in the comments below about whether you think Alec's experiences were genuine or the product of an extraordinary imagination. And stay tuned for our next video, where we'll uncover another story that will make you question everything you thought you knew about the hidden forces shaping our world. Thanks for being with us. Leave a comment, like to show your support, and remember to hit that subscribe button for more exciting videos. See you next time.